Broadcast Center. This is a special extended edition of 22 News in Focus. Today's topic, the Phoebe Prince bullying case.
South Hadley parent Luke Jelinas has been very vocal about the bullying that has been happening in the South Hadley school system. Jelinas, as well as other parents, have called for the resignation of Superintendent of Schools Gus Sayre and Principal Dan Smith. He also reacts to the decision to not take the advice of a nationally known expert on bullying months before Phoebe Prince took her own life.
We've been complaining about this problem for years. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that they actually admitted, they denied publicly that we had any problem with kids bullying one another. 3 years ago, they recognized the problem. They wait 2 years to do anything about it. They bring in one of the world's most noted authorities, Barbara Colarusso. She educates them. She tells them where their shortcomings are. And they told her, thank you, goodbye. 3 months later, we've got a dead child. She comes back. She tried to help them out. She even offered to stay and help head up the bullying task force. They told her thank you, but no thank you.
She's a well-known speaker and author on bullying. Barbara Colarusso is an educational consultant for school districts and other educational associations around the world. Several months ago, she came to South Hadley to help the school system address their bullying problem. She joins us now live on the phone from Colorado. Barbara, thank you very much for talking with us again.
Thank you for doing this special.
Well, what you don't know on your end of things, because you're not here with us, is that we actually have a bunch of studio guests here, and some of them actually would like to ask you a question. One of them here. What's your name?
Krista.
Krista, and you're from South Hadley, right?
Yes.
Talk to us what you'd like to ask Barbara.
Well, I was a student at South Hadley school, the high school, and I actually left because I just didn't like the environment, and also I had health problems. But my question, I guess, would be why did it take so long for the school to realize what was going on? I mean, couldn't they see in the hallways what was happening? And I mean, everybody knew.
Well, that's the big question that needs to be asked. And I really believe, as I worked with the staff, the primary grades, the elementary and the middle school, actually made a concerted effort to make major changes in their schools, and I believe many of the teachers did. However, I cannot answer that. I can tell what I presented for what bullying is, and I believe this in my heart, that had someone stopped this, whether it was the bully stopping it on their own initiative, seeing how ugly it is, had any other student reported it and then the administration stopped it, or had the administration stopped it once they learned about it, I know three things to be true. One, we probably would not have a dead child on our hands, and at least her last 3 months would have not been so malicious and horrible. Two, 9 kids wouldn't be facing criminal charges because it would have been stopped before it reached a criminal. And 3, we wouldn't be having these kinds of meetings because we'd be looking at the 3 Ps, strong anti-bullying policies, procedures, and programs in place, actively in place, where we're all saying as a community, young people as well, because you young people actually are on the front lines. It's done under the radar of adults, and you can be on those front lines, but you have to have adults want to report it to them that will keep you safe, any witness safe, and actively hold the bullies accountable, and I don't think that was done.
Barbara, this is Anthony DiLorenzo. I'm also here with 22 News. I'm helping moderate today. We have another question here from Joanne. She's from Bernardston and kind of wants to know why all the blame is just being put on those 6 students. Do you think that other people should be held accountable, correct?
I just think it's pretty extreme that much guilt is being put on these kids. Not that they're not guilty or that they haven't done something wrong, but just that I know that the adults around sometimes can hide their guilt by putting it on someone, and I don't want to see these kids become scapegoats, even though I want to see them be punished if indeed they are guilty of this.
So, Barbara,
I'd like to take the position that they not even be punished, but disciplined, and there's a world of difference. And first of all, held to account and have to go through a restorative justice procedure so that they can enter the community as not bullies, but using their leadership skills in a healthy way. But that said, and they are on the front lines, they're the ones who actually did it. But anybody who knew about it and failed to intervene needs to be held accountable as well. I trust the DA has examined that very carefully when she said it was troublesome, it was not criminal. But troublesome doesn't mean that you can't do something about that. And that's what needs, I think, as a community you have to look at. But you also have to say, if more information comes out during the trial that others need to be held accountable in terms of criminal charges, then let it be.
Barbara, you're back with Jacqueline again, and I have Eleanor here from South Hadley. She graduated actually from South Hadley. What is your question for Barbara?
My question is that the school systems today have adjustment counselors, school psychologists, and guidance counselors, which we really haven't heard very much about in the upshot of this crisis. And I would just like to know, I want to know what size caseloads the South Hadley counselors are responsible for. I've heard rumors that this is an astronomical a size to have to handle, and I would like to know if there was any reports made to these officials because they could have perhaps helped out in their role for student bullying.
Eleanor, thank you. So I guess, Barbara, the question is, when you were able to have a firsthand account of what was going on in South Hadley last year, did you get any perspective on what Eleanor here is talking about?
No, actually, that would not be in my realm of questioning, but I can say when I came back and talked to the kids, there were two things that came out very clearly. They needed to see, and I agreed with them, a visible sign that the kids who had done the bullying were being held accountable. The rest is probably going to come out. Were there counseling opportunities for Phoebe? Were the kids who targeted her pulled aside and given severe consequences for the level of bullying that they were doing? And then, after they're held accountable, to get the kind of therapeutic intervention that they may need. But that's secondary. And I think we can't say, and I'm as an educator myself, and I don't know the facts on numbers. That would have to be somebody from the school system. But we should have the support so that every targeted kid feels safe. That's where the counseling would come in. But it's the administration's duty, those in the position of handling discipline procedures, that would be dealing first with the bullies. And then if those bullies needed therapeutic intervention because they have sunk into a morass themselves of where they are totally disconnected from what it means to harm another human being, there's no empathy and the like, then that counseling would fall in place, but it needs to be a discipline procedure first.
Barbara, it's Anthony again. I'm here with Barbara from Long Meadow. And Barbara, you've gone around to schools, and you actually were in South Hadley a few months before Phoebe actually took her own life. Do you know if the staff knew anything about a bullying problem in their school and how bad it was? And Barbara will continue a question there.
I'd like to ask you, don't you think that the teachers that watch this bullying going on every day and do nothing about it should be held legally responsible, especially in this case where a death happened from it? Because it's miserable to go to school and be faced with this every day, and yet you've got teachers all over that just don't bother to deal with it. But when it ends in death, don't you feel that the teachers that knew of this, and that can be proved, should be legally responsible for it?
Well, anyone that's in a position of authority in a school that witnesses bullying and fails to act on it, there are different degrees before it reaches criminal, just as these kids, their initial bullying, as mean and cruel as it was, did not reach the level of criminal. So we have to look at, did anyone report it? If they reported it and nothing was done, did they know what their next step would be? Because I do know that when it was initially happening, the level was awful, but it was not yet criminal.
Barbara Colarusso, thank you very much for talking with us from Colorado today. We really appreciate your time on this Sunday. I don't know what it's like in